Hey, everybody. Thanks for stopping by. It's our latest edition of WPT Weekly. This is like the Arkansas Derby, Florida Derby edition of the show. Just two this week. You got Jason and of course Tommy Murphy coming to you from good old Louisville, Kentucky. We're missing Joe, Tommy. He's performing his civic duty.
It happens. Yeah, Joe got called in for jury duty, so I guess the show has to go on, but he'll join us again next week, I would imagine. Hopefully, a celebratory podcast, I would hope after Saturday, but we'll get to that here soon.
Yeah, let's hope Joe's not tied up for the next like couple of months on some major case or murder trial like the junior soprano trial. But I hope Joe's having a good time and he'll report back. We'll see if he gets picked. But in the meantime, we'll be picking through some recent races. There's a lot going on. I mean, it's crazy, Tommy. I think how fast just time flies. Like, and I still got to do my taxes. I got the paperwork actually. It's right next to me. I just gotta sit down and actually spend a few hours filing our taxes. But with that in mind, it's like OBS March done. March is nearly complete. It's the last round, the big 100 point round essentially for the Kentucky Derby. April 1st right around the corner. I mean, dude, the year is just flying by.
I know it's gone by in a blink, and just the fact that March the sale has already gone through. We've got a little bit of that Charlatan Philly left, and that's all. And then we're gonna get right back to it. I think when does that sale start in April? Is it the 15th? I think it is.
It's the 15th through the 18th, and we'll get up there, the 14th essentially. Will be all hands on deck, looking around and, scoping the grounds, trying to find the next Carson's run per se out of the April sale.
Yeah, we got that, and then obviously Keeneland's right on deck coming up here soon, and obviously a big weekend like you already alluded to with the big round of Derby prep. So I think everything's really starting to come to fruition with the Derby field, how that's going to look. And again, I've got the itch, I got the Derby fever. I can't wait to see how it's going to shape up, and hopefully we're going to have our hand in play in the big race.
Oh, without a doubt. And I am already on the record. I've got my all things WPT crystal ball, all things West Point Thoroughbreds, magic wand out. I've already predicted, and I told everybody last week on our little podcast here. I've already started to think about what suit I'm going to bust out for Kentucky Oaks Day 2026. In part, the catalyst and genesis of that is this gorgeous chestnut filly by Charlatan, who we still have a little room left in. I thought Tommy B yesterday had a very prescient post about West Point over the years, just the foresight that Terry and the team have had at spotting up and coming talent before the masses, staying well ahead of the curve. And it's well documented getting in with Dallas, Cherie. I mean, the list goes on and on. Kier McLaughlin before they were kind of household names, and the vibe, Tommy, not only with this Philly but having Cherie, as such a integral part of the West Point operation. So this Philly to me checks all the boxes, and it sounds like and it looks like she is doing absolutely phenomenal at Dr. Eisenman's. A new partner was out yesterday watching her gallop. Here's my Oaks filly for 2026, and we still have a little room left on her.
Yeah, she looks great, and I think to what you just said about Cherie and kind of get in with her on the ground floor, and then I think about the year she had last year, all the great things she did with Phillies. Of course, Vava for us on Derby Day comes to mind. She feels pretty is another one that comes up. So obviously, she knows what she's doing with these kind of Phillies, and she's just beautiful. Look at her there, she's dabbled out behind, just standing there like an old pro, and I'd really like to see it, especially coming right out of a sale. I'm already back to the track, getting right to it. Really doesn't skip a beat. And like you said, everything seems to be good down at Doc Iseman's. And I'm excited to get her rolling. And hopefully she's going to be that next great Sharita Vo Philly.
Yeah, absolutely. So don't hesitate. We've got a little room remaining on this daughter of Charlatan, and I got some parallels to Charlatan, looking at Cornucopian, who we're going to face on Saturday with Sandman in the Arkansas Derby. Just that flashy brilliance that Charlatan had throughout his career. I mean, he was in on the raw talent spectrum for me anyway, like off the charts, like a 10 out of 10. Very few horses in my humble estimation, and I'm pretty stingy when it comes to grading, and I've been around a while. Maybe not as old as Terry per se, and I've aged like a fine wine, but been a fan of the game for over 3 decades. So I do not just heap praise on horses just for the sake of it. And Charlatan was that kind. So super thrilled to have her in the barn. Let's backtrack, my friend, and we'll get back to the action last weekend. Overall, it was a tough week slash weekend for the stable. It started last Thursday, in fact, Tommy, with a very good return race, and I think in a lot of ways and respects, almost like a first time out for Sansone at Gulfstream Park, because his race Alabama Day, I think many of us just drew a line through it. I was very, very encouraged by his return for Shug. I mean, what'd you think of his race?
I was too. I mean, I'm in the same boat where I kind of consider this his first start, and I wasn't necessarily sure what to expect from him, but he showed up, he ran a nice race. I think you could probably make the case that he might have been the best in the race, and he just kind of ran into a little bit of trouble, kind of stuck behind a couple of horses and couldn't find a way out. But I really liked the way he finished out, and I think this is going to be a great race for him. And when we look back towards the end of the year, and hopefully see this as a stepping stone for him to bigger and better things, and obviously, again, step in the right direction. I'm looking forward to see what we can do next out, and really see if we can get him to break through and get to the winner's circle.
Yeah, it sounds like April 16th, and I'm with you just in terms of across the board. I think in every relevant and important metric, he's going to step forward. I got a good education, and we'll go a mile and a 16th is the plan. April 16th at Keeneland for him. Sansone bounced out of the race in good shape. You took the ride up to Turfway Friday night, Independence Avenue on the synthetic. First start off a pretty lengthy layoff. She showed her customary early speed, flattened out. I mean, what were your takeaways with her return race last Friday?
Yeah, I kind of thought she might need the race, and going to Turfway and getting the poly for the first time, I thought was always going to be a big question mark for her. And like you said, she broke out of the gate, got a great spot. Gabe had said, she was traveling great, and then really when time came to really run, she just didn't really have a whole lot, and she looked to never be comfortable on that surface. So I don't think she was a huge fan of that synthetic at Turfway, but I think it was a good race to get under her belt, and we can move forward with her, get her back to the Mid-Atlantic on turf courses that we know she will really, really like.
She's going to have to step it up, though. I mean, she
Yes.
is the tricky thing with her. It's just tough. The fact that she's a three other than now, right? I mean, so and, and she's been consistent. And I said last week along something along the lines, like she truly is like 100% racehorse, and I have a lot of respect for her. But yeah, there's no doubt about it. She is going to need to step it up as we get back on the grass and get her settled up at Fairhill. We took a shot. You got to be in it to win it, my friend, and I look back or think back to our conversation with Joe last week, and along the lines of I was saying it's going to be really tough for Yinzer. I thought his maiden win, while visually solid, still thought there was an argument and some concrete evidence that it was bias aided, that he caught a track that was very complimentary the day he did break his maiden at Fairgrounds a few weeks ago. That was complimentary to early speed. And sure enough, we were 42-1, pressed the pace, what turned out to be a rapid pace, Tommy. Race completely melted down. Yinzer didn't fire, had nothing left for the last 3/8 of a mile or so. And I mean, closers, as you can see, my friend, led by the other Asmussen horse, Tistastic, dominated the trifecta in the Louisiana Derby. My question to you is, do you want anybody out of this race potentially moving forward to Churchill Downs in May?
You know what? I think I brought him up last week, but Chunk of Gold, I was really impressed with again for a horse that I don't think gets a whole lot of respect. Um, where he came from, Turfway, trainer in West, Jared Loveberry maybe who knows how to ride in the Derby, ran two fills a second a couple years ago. But I was just impressed with how he ran. He seems like a really hardy and gritty kind of horse, and I think he's going to really relish if he can get the trip at Churchill, that extra ground, and see maybe if he can get that closing trip. But he should be a price. He's always been a price every time he has run, at 10-1. But overall, like you had said, the track kind of flipped how it played a couple weeks ago when Yinzer broke his maiden, where so many horses up front stayed up there and won, like Yinzer did breaking his maiden. And this time around, pace was so hot, so contested that it completely blew up. And you can see all the horses that were up front, from us to
Hmm.
Fucio, John
John
Hancock,
Hancock,
even
right? I mean,
Bill,
John Hancock.
who
Yep.
Bill, I thought made a good move and then just kind of flattened out. It was a very, very different racetrack, and like you alluded to again, you got to be in it to win it. So it was good to have a shot, give him that chance. But now I think we can take a line through this one, go back, and then start to work back through Yinder's conditions and get him really going for the summer.
Yeah, the talent's there, and his best days, Yinzu's best days, I wholeheartedly, truly, hand on my heart, believer in front of him. I can't take credit for this, but Tommy B, pretty much from the horse's second start, when he was going to win and he snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, as they say, when he made that right hand turn to the pretzel stand at Fairgrounds, Tommy's like, I really truly think he's going to be a turf horse. And I tend to prefer the twirling candies by and large on the grass. So in my mind, I'd love to see not only take a step back and just return to a known win as a one allowance in a much more favorable spot. Throw him on the grass. I think we might have an okay turf horse on our hands. But Yinzer bounced out of the race in good shape, and he'll certainly fight another day. Moving on, what just happened here? There we go. Let's go. Boom. Moving on, we had Superpower run third. Dual Guru, by the way, skipped over him. He didn't run any good for maiden 20 against Laurel. It's been rough with him, and tough. I had high hopes that he might be a stakes quality Laurel going back earlier in his career, and he hasn't really moved forward. Not a good looking race for Dual Guru, and I think admittedly not in a great spot with him after that race last Sunday at Fairgrounds. A Superpower, meanwhile, on the East Coast, Clements, and I thought they made the right choice, even with the tough post. I thought they made the right choice, not running in the stake. I've talked about it before. I tend to be a guy that likes to take one step at a time, almost like going up a staircase, right? I'm not gonna, go from the ground to three steps up. I'm gonna hit that first step. So I like using horses' conditions. I don't think he ran as well, and certainly from a speed figure standpoint, it backs this statement up in a major way. I don't think he ran as well as he did on Pegasus Day up at Aqueduct when he broke his maiden. I walked away from the effort though, thinking that it was okay. He ran fine. Maybe a horse that's just a little better, Tommy. Would you agree? Perhaps around one turn with Superpower?
I would tend to think so. And, to be fair and give him a little bit of, benefit of the doubt, that the huge improvement from his first race to his second race on the figures was astronomical. So to think that maybe he'd run that same figure back may have been a little bit of much to ask from him. I think looking back on, of course, it's always 2020 hindsight, but you could see maybe just a little bit of a regression in terms of the speed figure and how he ran. But overall, I thought he ran a good race. It was a tough race coming from that far outside post and basically having to gun it from the start to really even have a chance as they got into that first turn. And he was hung so wide in that first turn that I knew it was going to be a tough spot for him. But overall, I thought he ran a good race, especially off that huge effort breaking his maiden. And I think, like you said, one turn may be his sweet spot, and hopefully we'll get him back to a one turn mile next time and give him a little bit better of a post draw too. I think that'll be in his favor as well.
And he's in the right kind of barn, right? I mean, the Clements will maximize his ability. I still think, again, we are going to see a Superpower run faster than he did on Sunday over a track. It looked like the horses were just really laboring over that racetrack. It looked like a very deep, tiresome racetrack. But again, like Superpower coming out of the race and the Clements, by virtue of them just being on top of everything. I mean, that is a Hall of Fame, and Christoph's on the nomination again to get into Racing's Hall of Fame this summer, and we hope he gets in. They are on top in terms of the amount of homework that they do. So I think New York will be a good base for him. You've got only Naira, but you've got Monmouth, you've got the Mid Atlantic, and looking forward to Superpower again. Not a great effort out of Sands of War, and we're going to have our updates, the stable updates, go out, of course, every Thursday. And curious what David and Gordo and Cherie are both thinking with her. I know he had shared thinking about perhaps just retiring her and sending her to a high level stallion. And, if we do that, Tommy, I mean, all the upside in the world is there. I mean, her pedigree is off the charts being in the family of Justify.
Yeah, and that's something that a lot of breeders want. They look for in those kind of pedigrees. So it's hard when, she runs like that, when you have a pedigree kind of backing that up, to ignore it for too long. So, I'll be interested, just like you, to hear what David and Cherie have thought about after that effort and see where they stand with her.
Definitely. So let's fast forward, pal. Good luck to Sorcerer Silver later today at Gulfstream. I am gonna head down, maybe around 1 o'clock today. Very, very much looking forward to our Florida bred by Good Magic Colt. Good Lord willing, not to get ahead of our skis, making it a perfect 2 for 2. And then we can, depending upon how he runs today, we can formulate a game plan in terms of just the overall bigger and better, stepping up and trying open company horses. And, with Tommy, with Tom Bellhouse in town for the Florida Derby, a little, and I'm not rubbing this in to make you jealous, maybe just a little bit. I've got a date with Tommy B at Christine Lee's tonight after the races, which tends to be like a minimum buyer of like 110. Have you ever enjoyed Christine Lee's after the races at Gulfstream while you're down here?
I can't say I have. I think I'll have to get back down there
We got to
soon.
rectify that next time you're in town
Break my
visiting mom
maiden.
and dad. Yes. Yes. So a little Christine Lee's as the bottom half of hopefully, or the second half of a daily double that includes a big effort out of Sorcerer Silver today. Pressure's on, and the bullseye's on his back, 3 to 5 in the program. Along the lines of pressure, feeling all the big race day, big horse type emotions, right? And that's why we do this. In regards to Sandman, in Saturday's $1 million Arkansas Derby, like the post, like the field size, love Christian Torres, but I am not upset. We reached out to a more established and certainly experienced journeyman rider who's at the top of his game, and Jose Ortiz. For me, though, Tommy, it probably is good and as consistent, even in a couple of races recently, that he has legit excuses. As good as Sandman's been, and for all the positives in his corner, this is an Arkansas Derby that very much centers around and probably hinges upon how freakishly good or how legitimately talented Cornucopian is for Mr. Bob Baffert.
Yeah, and really, the more I look at this race and this horse, Bob, who else but Bob would take a shot like this with a horse like
Nobody. Yep,
and
nobody. Only him. Yep.
the crazy thing is he's done it before and it's worked. So it's not like a complete shot in the dark where you have absolutely no idea what to expect from this horse. I think we can all expect this horse to be flying from the 9 hole. And I would imagine in a pretty hot speed duel up front. I would imagine Speed King tries to get out there as well after missing the break in the Rebel. So it'll be interesting to see those two hook up. Cole Battle's another one where he's done it on the front end too, and he's also done it coming from behind. So it'll be really, really interesting to see how that pace shapes up for the race. Hopefully, there's a lot of pace for us to run into with Sandman, and he's a little bit closer as well, because I think that'll really, really help him out, being closer to that pace, not being so far back, so he doesn't have so much to do when they're turning for home. But I think getting that extra half furlong here is really going to help him out as well, just continually, gradually stretching him out And of course, hopefully we can catch a piece of it and secure our spot in the big one come May. And I think he's really going to enjoy that 10 furlongs come the first Saturday in May.
Yeah, the good Lord willing. I mean, we need to, and again, I have not sat down with my abacus in terms of like going over every single point where we might finish, the other preps on the weekend, including the Florida Derby. But I think if we run top three, we should be good for Churchill Downs in May with Sandman. So I'm with you. I'm with you on him going a little longer, not only on Saturday, but beyond that, going a minimum of 10 come that first Saturday in May at Churchill Downs with Sandman. But yeah, I mean, in terms of cornucopian, this this is not unprecedented with Bob Baffert because he's done it before, like you said, and the horse that comes to mind, and maybe in a lot of respects, it's not a completely fair comparison to justify who accomplished something that I don't think a horse will ever, ever, ever do in the history of thoroughbred horse racing again. I mean, not starting before his 3-year-old season, and in the span of, and again, I don't have his PPs in front of me, 200 days or so. Not went from his first start to sweeping the Triple Crown. So again, Baffert's done this before, but on the flip side, and this horse, I should add, you go back, watch the replay of him back on February 23rd, passed the eye test, the figure test. I mean, an awesome effort. You don't see horses run like almost not normal. I'm not comparing him to Flightline. I don't want to, but like that kind, like
Yeah.
it's just it's uncanny, right? But again, for all that being said, second start running against Cole Battle, who's 5 for 7, ton of seasoning. Our horse, who keeps inching forward, and it feels like Sandman with each subsequent race, we see a slightly more polished version of him, and he bellies down just a little bit more off the quarter pole, and he's improving little by little, incrementally improving. He's got 7 races. Speed King is battle tested with 4 races. I mean, Cornucopian, what they are asking of him Saturday, it's a huge ask. And I'm hoping when you look at all of those factors that he and hurdles that he potentially has to overcome, because this isn't a normal move, and he might not be a normal horse. He might be a superstar. I'm hoping again that just harkens back to our big gray colt by Tappet and makes him that much stronger, because he's been in the battles, he's got the seasoning, and he's got the foundation. And quick thought here on the job, Tommy, that Mark Cassie and his team have done with him from his first start on. I mean, it's for me, it's a 5 out of 5.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. 10 out of 10. If you want to go to that scale of 10 with him, because he just keeps getting better and better, I feel like, with every start. And I don't think we've gotten to the bottom of him just yet. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what he's got left in the tank as we really start to get serious.
Let's hope he gets a clean trip, an honest pace. I can't imagine if you're in that race and you're the connections or you're a jockey or a trainer on one of those rival horses, like you cannot let Cornucopian just dictate the terms, right? I mean, you got to go after that horse. You can't let him clear off like and have just, a walk in the park from that outside post. So hoping they make him work is my point, and they should. I know I would if I was, in or on a speed horse as far as connections involved.
Yeah.
So let's move on. Right. I know you're with me. Like, you cannot let that horse just get away with
And let
murder
him
on the
walk.
front end. But yeah, it's a fascinating, like, whether or not we had a horse in the Arkansas Derby, just the presence of Cornucopian with all that hype. It's a fascinating study,
It is.
Ken, because
And
it's so unordinary coming across horses like him. It just
yeah.
is.
But last piece on that, I looked. Bob did it with Taba. Taba won a 6 furlong sprint, breaking his maiden back in 22. It went on next start when it's Santa Anita Derby. So obviously he's done it before, and that was just 3 years ago. So
Yep.
not completely out of the question.
Right, and he was a very, very good horse, grade 1 winner. He's now a stallion. I wouldn't put him in the category of a Justifier and American Pharaoh, not only
Not
because
at
he didn't
all.
win the Triple Crown. That's irrelevant. Taba, very good horse. We'll see if, time will tell if Cornucopian is Taba. Is he not as good as Taba, or is he better than Taba? Is he in the category, whether he sweeps the Triple Crown or even makes the Kentucky Derby? We'll see if he's as good as Pharaoh and Justify. Fascinating, fascinating horse. Good luck to Sandman. I know we've got a big contingent of partners that are going to be in Hot Springs on Saturday, and Tommy from the Ville and me from hopefully a celebratory dinner with the Rapoli clan after Disruptor wins the Florida Derby. We'll be watching and rooting because, dude, I don't think what time's post time. Yeah, almost 8 o'clock, and they drag at Oaklawn. So you're looking at around 8 p.m. Eastern. So it's a prime time spot for our great horse, my friend.
Yeah, I know, and he'll be easy to spot. He's like those white horses are easy to find, especially him. He's
Yes, yes,
unmistakable when
yes,
you see him.
yes, yes, yes. We got a gray horse in the Florida Derby, and who am I? It's like it's not your horse, so what's the point? That's some spot. As I was looking through the race this morning for Smoking Boy, I'd almost like a separate pool as. And I don't want this to come across the wrong way. It probably already has, but like that horse to me looks so overmatched. I think he could be as high as 200 to 1, but I like that he's a gray. And Christina's late mother, Mimi, her grandma on her mom's side, who was a wonderful lady, and I loved very much. She was a stone cold Catholic, went to mass every Sunday in Saratoga Springs. And the last Travers she was alive for was the Catholic boy Travers. And we were up there and watched the Travers with her at her house that day. And she picked Catholic boy before the race because of the name. So anytime I see Catholic boy, it just makes me think of her and smile. So pretty solid Florida Derby, pal. I was most impressed, and you and I have not talked about this race prior, so I'll send it to you on this statement. I was I was really impressed with the Godolphin horse and the Fountain of Youth Sovereignty. He's going to be favored. Who do you like Saturday in the big race down here?
Yeah, obviously, like Sovereignty, I've been really impressed with him, and we've run into him twice now with when he broke his mane in the Street Sense and the Fountain of Youth. Right to his inside, Brad's horse, Tappan Street, draws a little bit of interest from me. I think he'll be bet pretty well in there. I mean, he was the favorite coming off a maiden win in the Holy Bowl, but for me, a horse that I know you're going to agree with me on this one that I seem to like a lot, and just seeing Irad stay home to ride is Disruptor in this race. I think he's obviously going to go from 7/8 to 9 furlong, so we'll see if he can take that. But Gunrunner over Speightstown mare, there's no reason that he can't. And when you can get a spot like this with Todd Pletcher and Irad Ortiz, it's really hard to doubt him in those spots. But I tend to really like Disruptor. I like the progression on the figures there, and he's been favored in every race. So people have known, and I think they've seen how nice of a horse he is. But I like him to take if he is a halfway decent price. I don't know if he will be. That's hard
I
to say.
don't think he will be. I mean,
But
I didn't see the program. Did you see a morning line for this race?
no, not yet. That's what I was
Yeah,
looking
I'm
for. I didn't see
curious. And Brian had to have done it. I mean, geez, they drew the
Yeah.
race on Saturday, so shame on you and me. He's got to be second choice here. No, I mean, I think he'll be a shorter price than Tappan Street. Maybe not by a lot, but Sovereignty probably going to be favored here off a very, very good Fountain of Youth. I mean, when you consider the layoff for him, they didn't go all that fast in front of him. And on that bull ring, going a mile and a 16th down here with the short stretch, for him to finish up like a wild horse, uh, cutting down a New York bred, actually. I was going to say a pretty solid horse. In fact, very solid horse for the Pletcher barn in River Thames, who looked home free. Man, I was impressed by Sovereignty, but I got to think Disruptor, 5-2 ish or so off that crushing maiden win. Because yeah, like you mentioned, Tappan Street, I would imagine he'll run a little bit better than he did in the Holy
Oh,
Bull. Does it concern you how bad Burnham Square was though, coming back in the Fountain of Youth? I mean, he was terrible in that race.
Yeah, I think that'll be interesting to see what they do with that horse. But in a sense, I don't want to hold that against him here because, I think Brad Cox is one of the best around when it comes to spotting his horses and putting them in competitive spots. And I think that's what makes him such a great trainer. And, he just won the Jeff Ruby with the horse that's 15-1 coming off a maiden win. So I don't think
Yep.
that completely, and he just doesn't put horses in spots just to run them. He puts them in spots to win. So for him to have a confidence to put him in this spot, after that runner-up effort at Burnham Square, who didn't really fire last out, I think is enough of a vote of confidence for me. I have some faith in this horse as well.
And not a common occurrence seeing Bob Baffert with a horse in at Gulfstream Park, specifically on a non-Pegasus day or Pegasus dirt race. You give any chance to Mattakit Road, who, you know, you had touched upon Coal Battle, and I do want to just interject here, backtracking a sec to the Arkansas Derby. That horse ran really well in the Rebel, and if you're under the opinion like I am that in particular, the second half of that Rebel Day card track was very, and this seems to happen on a lot of big racing days where the track gets kind of speedy and very kind of early speed horses. I mean, Cold Battle did not have a rail skimming trip. Do you give any chance to Mattakit Road, who did set the pace over that track and was the inside speed in the Rebel?
Yeah, I think you can't ever count Bob out in spots like this, so I think he'll have a shot. I wouldn't be surprised to see him hit the board, pick up some more points. I don't know where that would land him on the leaderboard, but I still think he's got a halfway decent shot. You just can't count out a guy like Bob on big days like that out.